Hello guys, I'm going to go ahead and show you your answer key and also try to explain some things that I know a lot of people have difficulty with when I start to grade quizzes and tests. The big thing that I see a lot of problems with is this writing a story that matches the equations. Just like any story, there needs to be an introductory and a conclusion. Your introductory tells what the story is about. Your conclusion with the word problem is usually your question of what you're trying to find. So I'm going to start by looking at the problem, and it is talking about a cost of clothes. So you're going to come up with any sentence that's talking about what this story could be about. As simple as, we went shopping for clothes. Now the reader knows it's talking about finding some clothes. Whether you sit there and say, oh, we're going back to school, shopping, whatever you want, but it needs to have a nice introductory. Then I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the parts. The cost of a shirt, I know, is C. That's the basic. But then after that, I can see that the cost of the jeans is C plus that 12, which means the shirt plus $12. So that's where my next sentence is going to come in. At the store, jeans cost $12 more than a shirt. Period. There's my next sentence. Now when I look at the next one here, it's my equation. And when I really take a look at that equation, it's telling me I've got 3C, which means I've got 3 shirts. I have 2, and here's that C plus 12. That's those jeans. So I've got 2 jeans with a total of 164. So that next sentence is going to talk about that. So maybe if and, because remember, you're making a story, so you're not just going to say 3 shirts, this. You need to come up with a story. If Anne bought 3 shirts and 2 pairs of jeans, comma, now I can put in my final conclusion, which is the question. What are you looking for? How much does each item cost? With a question mark. Now again, if you don't have those parts, you do lose a half a point for each thing. So I need an introductory, I need a conclusion, and I need that middle part to build the story. Once you have that done, then you're just going to go ahead and solve the equation. So when I solve that equation, I can see that I've got distributive property to do first. Then I can combine like terms. Then isolate the variable by subtracting 24 on both sides. Continue to isolate the variable by dividing 5 on both sides. And I now found that my shirt was $28. And now that I know my shirt is $28, my jeans is the shirt plus 12 to give me that $40. So with those word problems, when you're writing, make sure I see an introductory and a conclusion, and then build the middle part from what they give you over here. Down in number 2, I'm giving you all the answers, showing you the work. But again, right here, I'm telling you, you must show what each part is going to represent, where you're getting your variables from, and what each part actually means. And then absolutely make sure you read the question, because sometimes they're going to want more than one answer, sometimes only one. So when they say how many laptops, when I find that answer, I don't need to find the desktops, only the laptops. With B, again, triangle sum theorem. I'm looking at those angles. L and M are the same, so they're x, where N was twice, so that's 2x. And again, triangle sum theorem, when I add up all three angles from a triangle, it has to be 180. And notice the question was asking, what is each angle worth? So I do have to give all three angles separately. C was talking about your consecutive integers, and again, sum means when I add all three together. Consecutive means a number one right after the other. So my smallest integer x, that means the next number would have to be x plus 1. The number after that would have to be x plus 2. Made my equation of adding up all three numbers here to give me that negative 36. And then, of course, I just combine like terms and then solve my equation. But notice what the question is asking. What are the integers? So you had to list them all separately. Number 3 was pretty straightforward, finding out the mistake. And he accidentally made the equation equal to 100. He didn't substitute in 100 for each value of x. Solving the equations were pretty easy. The only one I left blank was E because I want to show you where I see the mistakes on that one quite often. And that is with this negative in front of that parentheses. That means that negative must be distributed throughout. So I'm going to have 7k minus k, which most people give me, but then they forget that second value in there to give me that negative 6. So if you miss this problem, that's probably where you made your mistake. Then, of course, combining all your like terms here. So you get 6, 8k, minus 6, I wasn't done there, equal that 22. And then, of course, adding 6 on both sides will give you that 28. And then dividing 8. It's not going to go in evenly, but that's okay. You should end up getting 7 over 2, which will give you that 3 1/2. And again, if you gave it to me as 3.5, it's the exact same value, so it does not matter. And last but not least, this is where I see a lot of mistakes on this one as well. Usually you're getting pretty good at actually doing this part now, x plus 5, 2x plus 5, but be very careful when you read your questions because this says at the end of 4 weeks they saved a total of 220. What you have here is each week how much they saved. So you're going to have to take each one and you're going to actually have to multiply that by 4 for each one for the 4 weeks. So Nick, 4 weeks for Nick, plus 4 weeks for Owen, plus 4 weeks for Jesse, and then I get that $220. So now you're going to go ahead and use your distributive property on those, and you'll get 4x plus 4x plus 20 plus, and again, when you do that 4 times 2, that's going to give you 8, and then that 8 can be distributed on the inside. So that's going to give you 8x plus 40 equals 220. Combine your like terms, and when you do that, you should come up with 16x plus 60 equals 220. Isolate your variable by doing the inverse operation on both sides. And last but not least, dividing, and you get 10. Now again, look at your question. Your question states right there, they want to know how much does each person save per week. Not after 4 weeks, but per week. That's when you're going to have to go back and actually write it out. Nick was just X, which is your $10. Owen was your 10 plus 5, which is your $15 for each week. And then, of course, Jesse was 2 times Owen, which means $30 a week. Now notice I did show all of my work. You need to get in the habit of doing that and writing out each part of the problem so people and the reader can actually see what your variables are representing. If you go ahead and study this, you will do fine on your quiz and your test. If you have any questions, you can always email me, and I hope you did well.